Well, my head's going to be like this most of the time, just so you can see this beautiful mouth of mine.
Why don't you like go like this? Like push
Okay,
it.
I just don't want it to go to the edge and fall off.
I don't want it to either.
All right, hold on.
It's actually weird, Cal, that I can hear you as well as I can since I can't see the microphone.
That's funny.
And you are...
The microphone's way over here.
Oh, okay. Then that's awesome.
So I'm gonna keep leaning in like this to talk, but whatever.
Oh, that is better.
Okay, all right. So,
yeah. There you go.
all right. So, we're already broadcasting. So who's going this week? Who's first?
I think it's Jen and Kent.
Jen and Kent. Okay.
All right. So Kent, you want to go first?
I have to look for a note for 20 seconds. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to wait for 30 seconds? Okay, I got it.
Oh, okay.
Go.
All right. Go.
Okay. I guess this week I would like to say a sincere, this isn't going to sound sincere in a second, but a sincere hats off to the United States Navy, who at a ceremony in Alabama, when was that? Yesterday. Christened.
Wait, are you about to speak low of the United States military?
No.
Oh, okay. Just making sure.
No. Absolutely not.
We alienate one group of people every single week. So
oh, I'm sure.
The entire United States Navy. I got some problems. I got some questions about that.
This is a sincere hats off to the Navy for they christened a what they call a littoral, which does not mean actual or LITTORAL, a littoral combat ship, 419 feet of seafaring death. And I don't know what it does. It's not a battleship, it's not a cruiser, it's not a submarine, it's a littoral combat ship. So whatever it is, they christened their new littoral combat ship the USS Gabrielle Giffords.
Oh.
Now, I want to say, as a personal opinion, I think the former Congresswoman and her husband, Mark Kelly, former astronaut, are terrific people. They're highly educated, they're caring public servants, and have dedicated their life to a cause they believe in after they got done relearning, after Congresswoman Giffords in her mid-40s relearned to walk and talk, which is quite a feat.
Yes.
That said, Navy, I'm not sure if the best way to honor Gabrielle Giffords was a boat full of guns. Hats off to the Navy for your intentions. Wow. It struck me as ironic, I guess, to that's the best I can do today.
The irony.
The irony, yes.
I truly don't know who that is.
Okay.
She was a senator who was congresswoman.
Congresswoman from Arizona who
she was attacked by someone a few years ago, shot in the face, shot in the back,
shot in the head. She had
I see the irony now.
Yeah, she had a Meet the Congresswoman event in January of 2011, and some crazy dude came and not only shot her but killed a whole bunch of people. So, so she had to learn to talk, learn to walk again. Was in a coma for a long time. Was pronounced dead at the scene and kind of came back from the dead. So.
Maybe this is a way of the United States Navy saying, ain't nothing like that ever gonna happen to her again.
Not to her.
Not to her. Not to her like that.
Oh wow. Well,
I'm feeling awkward even laughing about that. Like I feel like I'm sinning right now.
I know, right? Like you.
Anybody else feel bad about this?
This poor lady.
Yeah. A couple years later, feeling bad.
Let's have a moment of awkward silence and we can move on.
Okay. That's the beauty of editing. It doesn't have to be a moment of awkward silence.
Yeah. Let's just move on. right as we were on, right.
Then we just sound heartless.
Yeah, we do. So let's talk about something else.
Split the
All right,
difference.
so this
Hats off,
story, yes, my story is full of heart, so this is good. So I would like to say hats off to James Harrison. He has saved, or you could credit him with more than, I believe it was 2 million lives. Because apparently he's got a special.
He had 2 million people?
No, 2 million babies.
Oh, he had 2 million babies?
No!
Oh, that's some powerful sperm there.
Busy
Oh,
man.
that would be very busy. No. Okay, so this guy apparently had a blood transfusion. Blood transfusion. And then they came back and they were doing some blood work and they found he had this special antibody in his blood that is essentially a vaccine or medication. Not a vaccine, a medication is literally made from his blood. In 1951, it says he had a chest operation where they removed a lung, and he was 14. Okay, he's now 78. After this operation, they gave him 13 units of blood, or liters, it says. Since then, they've gone back and tested. It says soon after Harrison became a donor and doctors called him in, his blood, they said, could be the answer to a deadly problem. In Australia, until about 1967, there were literally thousands of babies dying each year. Apparently, there's an antibody in his blood that they can make a medication for against the, what is that disease again?
Rhesus disease.
Rhesus disease. And that's where the woman's body attacks the baby and thinks that it's a virus or something when it's a different type of blood type than her own.
Is that spelled the same way as the monkey
I
and
think
not
so.
the candy?
It looks
Okay.
like, yeah.
Yeah, like the monkey, not the candy.
Okay.
Anyhow, so it says Harrison was discovered to have an unusual antibody in his blood in the 1960s, and he's worked with doctors to use the antibodies to develop an injection called Anti-D. It prevents women with the rhesus disease, negative blood, from developing Rhd antibodies during the pregnancy. And Austria was one of the first countries to discover a blood donor with this antibody.
Austria or Australia?
Australia.
Australia.
Sorry.
You said it's Austria.
Oops. Anyhow, Australia.
Austria has other deadly
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. So, but Harris.
Do a deed.
Right. Yes.
Oh my.
Reese's.
All our notice, like most Americans, all of our Austria references are 70 years old.
No. Where are you from?
Oops.
Austria. Throw another shrimp on the Barbie.
This just took a drastic turn. Anyhow.
It is full of heart, though. It's absolutely full of heart.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
it
no,
says
that's super cool.
Yeah, it says his blood.
I just think he's like a mutant. Does he have like mutant
Well, it's like
blood?
he's
It's like,
like- yeah, he's
it's like
Superman
Wolverine
in
blood.
there.
It's like Wolverine or something. It's like, wow.
It's cool because it says that he's accredited with saving the lives of more than 2 million babies, according to the Australian Red Cross Blood Service, and that every bag of blood, every batch of anti-D that has ever been made in that country has come from him.
Wow,
So
what
he's
are they gonna do when
donated.
what are they going to do when he dies?
They were saying he's donated more than 1,000 times. Though he has a fear of needles, this guy goes and donates because of what his blood does.
That just makes it.
I
That's
know.
So
So they're talking about like they need to find somebody else for when he retires. I'm like, he's retiring from giving blood. Like that's so crazy. But
and by retiring, they mean
retires
die.
is that's a nice word for
But
it.
he's such a good man. It's so great. He goes
I
there
gotta-
with the needles and he does it anyways to save all these babies. I think
I
that's
gotta say-
absolutely fabulous.
I gotta say, when that story started, I was thinking, it was like, oh, this is fortunate. This guy was born with this thing in his blood, and they found it, and they've been able to replicate it ever since and save 2 million babies. But no, the turn that it took, and I want to thank you for seeing it through to the end there, Jen. The turn that it took
Faithful.
is
What can
that
I say?
he has gone out of his way to donate 1,000 times. And I have donated blood roughly 12 times, and I feel pretty darn heroic about this point. So, hats off to this dude.
I know, right? It says every time, like, he cringes at the needle and he can't look at it, but he goes anyways. And I'm like, that really is awesome.
Wow, that's.
And I also
ridiculous.
want to say about Australia, just one thing about Australia. I have known for
That's
a
where
long
you start
time.
every game of Risk if you want to win.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Right now.
You got to lock
Great
down
is
Australia.
That is the
I've
truth.
known for roughly 30 years, and I think since Crocodile Dundee, that Australia is full of things, just full of things that can kill you. And
Do they
but
have, do they have snakes that
I-
can swallow whole fish.
there's snakes, there's bugs the size of your fist, there's poisonous lizards and whatever. So Australia is full of things that can see you. But until 5 minutes ago, I was under the impression that pretty much everything that could kill you, you could see with the naked eye. But now I know that Australia is full of things that can kill you that are totally invisible. So,
Oh.
Dang.
Well, they actually have this disease here. Hopefully we have a donor here.
Sorry.
Right?
Man,
Okay.
so all of our we've alienated the Navy
I
and
know.
an entire continent.
Well,
hats off to the Navy. Yeah.
Didn't you say that your mom had this? With
My mom had this. Yeah, she had a few miscarriages
so
because of
see,
that.
she needs.
Oh.
It's pretty common. It just happens when like certain like blood types are meet.
like a
It's just
recessive.
a freak thing that happens.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So completely unrelated. I told Kara I was going to do this. I'm totally outing her here. So
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
a few weeks ago.
That's the end of our hats off. I
Yeah,
think.
that's the end of our hats off. Okay,
All right.
so but I'm
Kara
horning in
is
here.
married. Kara is married to a man, and she has a child. So if you're going to out her, it's oh wait, you mean a different thing. All right, so be it. Go ahead.
No, he's her beard. He's her beard. No,
Okay.
I'm kidding. So either way.
Actually, you only think that she gave birth to her son. It was the other way around.
Ooh, yeah.
Ooh.
that's rough.
My son gave birth to
I don't
me.
even know what that means.
That would be the other way around.
We're-
Confused.
Transgender, not
No,
the really.
we're not even going there. We're not going
Go
there.
on. Go.
Sorry.
Deleted. So I hope there's a spot where I can delete that whole thing right there. Shame on you, Jen.
Let's start again.
So okay, it's not funny at all.
It isn't funny.
A couple weeks ago,
it is what it is.
we did a podcast about Supergirl and kind of delayed gratification, and Kara talked about loving the Vampire Diaries so much, and I was like, you can get it on the internet for free, and she's like, I don't know, I got to pray about that, I got to pray about downloading it for free off the internet, and immediately, she didn't even like take time to pray.
No.
She did not pray.
It takes like a
No
second to
need-
pray. It's like
no
open
prayer.
communication.
No prayer involved, because literally, as soon as we were done recording the episode, I get a text message saying, "So seriously, where can I get these episodes of Vampire Diaries?" And so, Kara, did you download them and did you finish them?
Not only did I watch all of season 6, I started again from season 1 and watched through season 5. I'm about to start season 6 again because
Oh
I am
my goodness!
full-on obsessed with vampires.
That is
It's
2 weeks
ridiculous.
ago. That was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I finished season 6 in a week. I was like,
Are you
You have a fun,
We-
correct?
We
Yeah.
tape on a Sunday, and I thought it was like on Wednesday that I saw. What do you mean you're done with season 6? I thought it was like 3 days later.
yeah. It
Yeah.
was. It didn't take long. I was gonna hold on to it because I was going to camp. Next week I'm going to camp, and I was like, I'll keep this for camps when I have downtime. I can watch it there. But then I was
Yep.
like, well, I'll just watch one episode. Well, and then I was like, well, I just have to watch 2 episodes, and then before you know it, I've watched like 24 episodes, and I'm starting again from season 1 because I can't bear it.
You know they have
Oh
another.
my.
They have the other show called The Originals, right? Have you
Yeah,
watched that?
Or
I
rating.
do love the characters of it because they introduced those characters in Vampire Diaries, so I'm excited to watch that. I just haven't been able to stay away from
Yeah, but yeah.
Damon and Stefan Salvatore.
Wow.
Kara, I do have a serious question about Vampire Diaries, despite all the jokes.
Go on.
I knew, despite never having seen an episode, I did know before you did, because you were staying spoiler free, that what's her name? Nina something.
Yeah, like Nina
is
Dobrev or something.
Dobrev or something. Yeah, so that she after season 6 has left the show.
hmm
Yet the show continues.
Yes.
That's having never seen an episode, so I admit my ignorance. That seems like to me Kiefer Sutherland leaving 24 and there being more 24. How does the show go on without her? I thought it was her story.
It's I think it started off as she's one of the main characters, but there's 3 main characters. So it's like yeah, it's kind of a bummer she's leaving, but also the other 2 are really great too, and they have really great supporting cast. So I'm interested to see. It's gonna have to take a different turn because it has definitely revolved around her. So I'm interested. I'm excited to see where it's gonna go.
And her evil twin, right?
Yeah, but she died,
Yeah.
so don't worry.
Oh,
Spoiler
good.
alert. Sorry.
I haven't gotten there yet. I'm not watching the show.
The real question is how many times you will have gone through all of the previous seasons before the new one starts.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, probably a couple more. I'm really gonna try to stop. I'm gonna try to stop,
When I
guys.
think about a show that I repeat, I don't think about long form shows that are an hour long. I think about like a half-hour sitcom.
Yeah.
And you have met. Oh my gosh, how many? Okay, there's.
No, this is what I do though. Like I do this with shows.
Season. That means in the last 2 weeks. Okay, so 22 times 5. Oh my goodness.
Well, she's got at least 6 days into it.
22 times 5. Okay, so that's 110 hours.
Times 6,
Wow.
not times 5.
No, she's starting up 6 again. But she's spent an extra 110
Plus,
hours
she
watching
watched
Vampire
the whole
Diaries.
season 6. She
Kara?
watched the whole 6th season before that.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's right.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm envisioning the therapy that this child's going to need
So every
For-
other day you
Listen,
for
I have it on
abandonment
my
issues.
tablet, so and my headphones in, so he's not seeing it at all because I did watch the first episode with him in the room, not knowing what it was going to be like, and he watched a vampire draw some blood from his victim, and he said, "Ooh, vampires bite friends," and I was like, maybe we're not going to watch this show. So now that's a saying in our house now: vampires bite friends.
Like, okay.
Doesn't he want vampire kisses from you now too?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, he'll say, "Mommy, vampire me."
Vampire me. I think he's
I
seeing
I
more.
had to kiss his
Okay,
ass,
look.
basically.
Okay, Kara, here's the thing. I think he's seeing it more than you think. Otherwise, there have been 132 hours within the last 2 weeks that you have neglected your son.
Well, no,
so
no,
I think
no.
he's seeing this
I'm
stuff.
sure that he has seen it, but he doesn't have the sound to hear all the scary sounds and the bad words, so he might just see the occasional vampire.
132 hours.
Guys, I'm not saying that I like sit there watching. I like put it on when I'm like folding laundry and when I'm unloading the dishwasher. I'm cooking dinner.
Sure.
Vampire Diaries is there.
Sure, and
Oh my
to be
gosh.
fair, each one of those hours is actually 42 minutes.
This is
The
true.
way you're so
That's
true.
true.
it's
Alright.
somewhat less.
Thank you, Kent. Yes,
All right.
I
That
am not
doesn't help
crazy.
that
And for
much.
all of those people listening, Kara is actually a very good mom, and we are just giving her a
I
really
say,
hard time.
is this podcast actually an intervention? I feel like maybe.
This is a podcast intervention.
Just
Maybe
put
I've
that
been
out there. Don't want anybody
here.
getting the wrong idea and be like, "Oh, we need to report that Kara
For
girl."
sure. Sorry, no, we love Kara. We love Kara.
She's a great mom.
So,
Thanks,
okay.
guys.
So
You're welcome.
now we're going to discuss.
That loves
We're
vampires.
going to discuss this thing. Hold on one sec. Let me see if I can find the article. Let me go to Facebook. There's all the stuff that gets edited out because I should have been ready, but I wasn't. And the Jacob Sessions. And we're going to see. You can't change your race. Can't change your. Hey, where'd it go? Where'd the story go?
You didn't share it in Jacob Sessions. You shared it on your wall.
Did I?
hmm
Oh, okay. I shared it on my wall. So let me go into Calvin.
See, he needs me here.
This is why I need
Does
her.
he need you?
Since there's no chance this is going to make the final cut, who's got a racist joke?
Who's got a what?
He said, since this isn't going to make the final cut, who has a racist joke?
Well,
Okay, all right. So, not gonna lie, this week's this makes me mad. This whole thing makes me mad about this woman, Rachel. I don't even know how to say her name.
Spoken?
Rachel
Spokane?
Dolezal?
Oh,
Dolezal?
sorry.
Dolezal.
What? We're just gonna call her Rachel, right? So, this
Okay,
civil rights
Rachel.
activist. She's the president of Spokane's NAACP chapter, and it's been revealed her parents outed her as being white. But so here's the thing, right? That sounds strange because the NAACP, you don't actually have to be white to have positions of influence there. But this
black.
woman, or black. You don't have to be white or black. You can be whatever color you want to be. But this woman has been outed by her parents as being white. She has been identifying as a black woman for years, bronzing her skin, changing her hairstyle. I mean, if you see the picture, I mean, at this point, if you're listening to this podcast, there's no way you have not heard about this story, whether on your Facebook feed or just on the evening news or whatever. But it's a woman who is white who's been portraying herself as black, and not as some sort of like social experiment. Like in the book Black Like Me, there was a guy who took a bunch of pills to darken his skin to see what it was like to be black, and he was treated differently. And then when he was all done, he wrote this book to kind of help communicate to white people what it's like for black people. But that was a social experiment, and so we applaud that. And if she had been doing this for that reason, we'd probably be applauding it. But this woman was portraying herself as a black woman. Her story is full of lies about her experience growing up as a black woman. And so I guess as the story goes, she was talking about discrimination that she was facing because she was portraying herself as a black person, so people saw her as black. So she actually was experiencing actual discrimination in her adult life. But she is, in fact, a white woman pretending to be black. She is in this position of power and influence in the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. And the people are in an uproar, and myself included. I'm pretty upset about this, but as the only black person on this podcast, I want to know what your guys' perspective on this. Honestly, I'm asking you just as people and as white people. What is your perspective? And you don't have to agree with me, but I want to know what your perspective is on this woman who is white pretending to be black.
Well, also to bring up the transracial issue too.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Okay.
We'll get to that stuff.
All right.
Well, I guess I can start by saying when I first heard of the story, the first thing I heard about the story is I got a tweet alert on my iPad that I don't know if you know who this guy is, but Ben Shapiro, who is a conservative pundit who is an influential voice at Breitbart.com, was tweeting about Rachel Dolezal. Instantly, I knew that I was on the side of Rachel Dolezal because Ben Shapiro is a terrible person. But then I opened the story and started to read it. And I saw the words NAACP in Spokane, Washington. And my first thought is, are there black people in Spokane, Washington? And then I read down to like sentence 4 of the story.
Apparently not. Apparently there
aren't black people in it. So on one hand, apparently the NAACP town relatively near Seattle is so hard up for black people that and then I saw this woman's picture. And this woman's picture, I mean, and she's got this tower of kinky braided hair on top of her head, but I can look past that and look at her face and say, that's a white lady. And I hadn't really even processed the story yet, and it's like, I don't know what you did to your hair, but you were a white lady.
Well, here's the thing, Kent. There are plenty of black women who could pass for. I mean, that was the thing. Like, especially in right after slave days, there are many different hues, and so within the African American culture, there are black people who black people know are black, who could pass for white, and historically tried to do so that, and they would hide their heritage because of, they would get privileges if people thought that they were white, and they would be treated a completely different way if people knew that they were black. And that was always kind of an issue within the African American community, and to a degree it still is. But there are plenty of black people who could pass as white. Like, I watched the show. Well, now it's over, but I'm not caught up on it by any means. Parks and Recreation.
Yep.
There's Rashida Jones on that show.
Well, she is half black.
She is half black. But you can't. I mean, you would, until someone told me she was the daughter of Quincy Jones. I didn't know at all that she was black. But she could pass. She looks. Yeah. She doesn't say I'm not black. She doesn't say I'm not half black. No. But she could pass.
Well, even that I have a cousin who's mixed, and I mean he has a baby, and his baby doesn't look black. Like, they joke about it because him and his wife joke about it and say that he looks like Middle Eastern or something. Like, he does it. Maybe he'll look a little bit more later in his life, but I mean, they know it's his. You know, there's no question of that. But it's kind of funny that he doesn't look like his dad. He's looking more like his dad as he gets older. But if you first saw that baby without him next to him, you maybe wouldn't know.
Yeah, complete your thought, Ken. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
I guess one question that I have, because we've talked about people who can pass for one race and another and use the word mix, and I think in this country at this point, most of us are mixed to a certain degree with something else. Like there's very little quote unquote racial purity, and unless you have come directly from somewhere else. Now, Cal, you have identified yourself on the podcast before as rather dark-skinned.
Yeah.
And so I would guess, and this is only a guess, so you would know better than I, obviously, that you are descended almost entirely from American slaves.
Yes.
I found out some years ago, to my surprise, am 1/64th black, which is to say I am 63 64ths white, and display it every moment of every day. So, yeah,
only 63 64th, but you get all the privilege.
All the privilege, right? Exactly. So the question I would have is, it would be utterly ridiculous of me to identify, and I know, with every fiber of my being, it would be ridiculous for me to identify as black, even though I can find a black ancestor in the 1800s. That said, is there a line that you would draw as to where it's cool versus not cool? I mean, Barack Obama is rather famously half white, and he identifies as black, and that's fine. But I mean, where would you say? Where would you start to go? I don't know.
Okay, before I answer that, just kind of what you said about being 63 64th white and 1/64th black. There was a sketch. I always go back to sketches. A sketch on an old TV show called Mad TV. Back in the day. So I think I mentioned In Living Color last time. Now I'm mentioning Mad TV. But there's this sketch where these two people are going out on a date. They're both white. And they go into this restaurant, and they're sat, like, near the back. And this white guy is like, "You know why they sat us here, right?" And she's like, "No, why?" He goes, "Because I'm an octoroon. I'm 1/8 black." And so the whole sketch, he's finding all this racism against him, and he's clearly white. So funny. I'm an octoroon.
That's a word I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah.
Oh, that's too funny.
But I mean, just
well, like, you want your daughter to identify.
Yeah, I want I want to answer that question, but I also want to get Kara's point of view.
Okay.
As well, and here's the thing: in this podcast, I don't want to speak as the expert on all things black, because I'm not. But I want to get Kara's input as well, and then maybe we can talk around those ideas, because this is important to me. I think it should be important to all of us, but it's definitely important to me, and I know that. So. Kara, your thoughts?
Sure. Yeah. I had a similar reaction to Kent, and that when I first saw the picture.
And Jen's thoughts. I apologize. She just tapped me. She was like, "What about my thoughts?"
Jen's thoughts don't matter.
Jen's thoughts don't matter. But I want Kara and Jen's thoughts. So.
Okay. Well, I'll continue. My original impression, was that when I saw her picture, I thought, well, she looks like a white lady who has really orange kind of skin and has a perm or something. And so
orange is the new black.
I saw that meme. You see that meme? I was dying. Orange is the new black. Anyway, but then, as I was thinking about it, I was thinking, I mean, just what you guys were saying, that it's not like we can just look at everybody and tell what their heritage is and what their ethnicity is. I mean, sometimes it might be more obvious than others, but not always. I know just from living in Australia, they would call someone black if they were anything other than white. So anything other than white was black. So that would include, Aboriginals and people from like Malaysia or the Middle East. And sometimes and you didn't necessarily just know looking at them, and I certainly wouldn't ask. So if this lady had come up to me and told me that she was a black woman, I would have not questioned that. Okay, that's
so it was more relevant, more relative, I guess.
Yeah. I think so, but I guess to me, like, it bothers me a lot that she. I feel like, one, it's a lie. Like, why would you lie and say? I mean, what purpose is there for me to lie and say, oh yes, I am part Hawaiian? Like, like what is the purpose? Like, why would I do that? And also, I don't know. I guess I find it offensive. On behalf of the black community, that she's boiling down who she is based on how she looks. She's like, oh well, now my skin's darker color and my hair is curlier, and so now I identify as black. Maybe there's more to it than that, but for me, I just thought, like, how can you even begin to feel like you know what it is to identify as black when all you've really done is maybe change the way that you look or the way that you dress,
I think that it's also, I think those are really good points. But I also think that it's so disrespectful to minimize the whole of the culture to just, I'm going to get a tan, I'm going to perm my hair, and I'm going to pretend to be this and pretend that I know how you feel and where you came from in the story. Maybe I read a few books and I'm just going to pretend to know. No, the thing is, had she just had an admiration for the culture and tried to, embrace it and surround herself in it, I think that would be a different thing. We have people who, shall we say, love French culture. Like you said, you were in Australia, and maybe they even relocate to the culture that they love, and they embrace it, and they surround themselves in it, and they celebrate this culture that is maybe not their own. And maybe after 20 years, it kind of becomes their culture, in a certain kind of way. We also have that even in, even towards things like African American culture. Like we were talking about not too long ago, how that pulp culture in general has kind of borrowed a lot and idolized a lot of things in African American culture or black culture. And I think that people do say that flattery could be, or imitation could be the best form of flattery. Like there is a part of that I think is acceptable and okay. Everybody's met the white dude who tries to be like whatever, he's trying to be, I don't know, he acts and tries to act like he's from, the African American culture, and you're like, yeah, man, no, you're not. But nobody has a problem with him because he's imitating what he thinks is cool, People do have a problem with it. I shouldn't say nobody does, but there's a difference versus her parading around and claiming to be. And I think what it is the deception as well. The deception that she has said, essentially, I am I'm part of this culture, and yet it's all a lie. It's like somebody taking on, a different identity and trying to fool everybody, and then when people find out that they're not, like a doctor, for example, if she were to go around and say, I'm a doctor, and she's not, there would be legal repercussions, but there'd also, people would be upset. You're not who you said you were. It reminds me a lot, actually, Cal, and maybe you can even comment on this if you want, but it reminds me a lot of the story of The Education of Little Tree in the other podcast that we just listened to.
Where Criminal, right?
Yeah, where he goes, Asa Carter gets a tan, comes back to Texas, and pretends to be Forrest Carter, an American Indian. And some people bought it, and some people didn't, and some people said, well, maybe he just changed. And, he's passed on. You can't talk about it or find out the truth now, but, he wasn't American Indian. But he fooled a lot of people into thinking it. And does that downplay the American Indian culture, or is that his admiration for it? I mean, I think the deception, though, if she had said, hey, I like the culture and I'm going to try to, embody that, that would be a lot different than her saying what she's saying and doing it the way that she's done it.
Okay. So Kent, back to your original question, now that we've heard from everybody, back to the original question of, what is cool and what is too far. Again, that's going to be case by case, but I don't think there's anybody who says that this is okay.
No.
When it gets to the point of deception, claiming something that you are not. Now, there are plenty of people who are white, who grew up within urban culture.
Mm-hmm.
Eminem, for instance. We're in Detroit. I gotta mention Eminem. So he grew up within African American culture. Almost all of his friends were black. He never claims to be black. And for case in point, within hip hop, black rappers can say the N-word as much as they want. I don't like the N-word, but the fact remains, Eminem has never uttered it on his on any of his albums.
Nor would I think
none of them. He will not, because he knows. Hey, look, it's like there's kind of this like, hey, you know what? You're here. We're cool with you. But that's our word. Don't say that. Don't get it twisted. Yeah. You're not black, and he knows that. Mm-hmm. So there's some rules that kind of go with their unwritten rules, but everybody who's black knows those rules, right? And so people are like, black people shouldn't use that word. I don't think we should use that word, but the fact of the matter is black culture does use that word, African American culture does use that word, but we all know, whether you agree or disagree with the word, white people can't use that word, period. Mm-hmm. It's just a thing. And so, but Eminem knows that he is white. He knows that he is white. He knows that he is welcomed so far into the culture, but not to the point where he can say and do certain things. He would never claim to be black. He would never do that. Who else? Gary Owen. Gary Owen's a really great comedian. Hilarious. Married to a black woman, biracial kids, and he actually posted on Facebook the other day something along the lines of, hey, my promoters, because he's a pretty big comedian at this point. He's been in a lot of African American movies and whatnot. But he said, my promoters asked me, should I be having a show in this city that night because there's this famous other band, I think it was like the Rolling Stones or something like that. He said, that's not going to affect anybody who comes to my show. Because most of the people who go to his show are black. But he identifies with urban culture, with black culture, but he knows he is white. Now, most of his humor focuses around kind of that idea of being a white guy within urban culture. But he knows he's not black. He's not trying to portray himself as something else. So I think the line is drawn in different places for people who are around the urban culture and like the urban culture and think kind of understand the urban culture. And then there's people who think they understand the urban culture and pretend to understand the urban culture and just kind of need a little more education about it. Those are two different groups of people. But then there are people who pretend to be black, which is very, very rare. This is an extreme case. Mm-hmm. And I think there is reason for people to be upset because her story isn't just, I am black. Her story is, I grew up black. Mm-hmm. I experienced this, that, and the other, and she didn't. She's teaching these classes from the perspective of a woman who grew up black and experienced all these things. So she's kind of hijacking the story of people who actually did. Mm-hmm. And there are plenty of white people or people from any other background who have studied the African American experience and become experts in the African American experience and can teach about the American experience, but they have not experienced themselves that African American experience. And so this woman, she has not actually experienced it until she started faking it. Now, here's the thing. All of this came out because she was bronzing her skin and passing herself off as black, and then she actually legitimately experienced discrimination because the people who were discriminating against her thought she was black. So the experience that led to all of this, coming out in the media, was, I would not take away the legitimacy of the discrimination that happened. And that is definitely, that's a whole other podcast about this kind of stuff still happening. But the fact of the matter is, she was faking it and she was lying about it. Therefore, that fed into this experience. So her experience was real there, but all the experiences she's spoken about prior to bronzing her skin and changing her hair were not real. And so I think that's the issue for a lot of black people. And her position of influence is, hey, this is where I'm coming from. So I think that part of her life, speaking from that part of her life, game over. You're done there.
Well, I also think that part of it is, also intensified by the position that she holds. And what I mean by that is, if this was some punk kid teenager on the corner who was calling this stuff, we'd be like, you're stupid, right? Game over. Like, or if it didn't matter on her position, it would still be a big deal, But she's represented, like you said, teaching people about, racism and about this stuff, and her coming in and standing in the position that she's in, with that being all fake, I think also is a big deal that adds to this equation as well. Personally, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I think that if she was just in a position where being African American or not being African American, shall we say, didn't have as much weight, it also wouldn't have mattered. Not that she has to be African American or white or whatever for her position, but the fact that she's doing what she's doing, I think adds to that as well.
I guess I can sum up the way that I feel about the situation through the words of somebody else, and it's really short. There's a writer that I read a lot of. I don't know if you're familiar, Cal, with Jamel Bowie.
No, never heard of him.
He is a writer for Slate magazine, and
Okay.
he's you can tell from his name he's a black man, and what can I tell you? And this is a couple of sentences from his story the day that this broke. She says she's black, but we don't know if she's always black. Is she black when she's purchasing a home, when she's talking to the police, or is she only black when vying for a role where lived experience is going to help her odds?
That's good.
Interesting.
That is really good. Yeah, I mean, that's really like the epitome of white privilege, really. It's like, I'll be black when it's more convenient.
That brings up a couple things, and I'm not gonna pretend that I don't have particular ideas about this. But there was the hashtag of her being transracial, and a few weeks ago, and still even now, people are talking about Bruce Jenner being transgender and changing from being a man to being a woman. He always felt like he was a woman. He always identified with being a woman, even though he didn't tell that to the public. He was very honest. Apparently, he was very honest about it with his family. There's some conflicting stories on that, but most of the stories that have gotten out there, they might be agenda-driven. I don't know. But he says, he was very honest about who he was and how he felt about himself over the years, but it wasn't socially acceptable for him to, at that point. We're not talking about right or wrong there. We're talking about it wasn't socially acceptable. Those can be very different things, but to change one's gender. And so now he's done it, and everybody's applauded him, and he's transgender, and so it's a huge thing for the transgender community. But then this woman changes her race, and now this hashtag is out there, and people are talking about this whole "we're being transracial." I'm like, okay, well, so people can now change their race, and people say, oh, you shouldn't conflate the two. It's completely, some people are on the side saying, it's terrible that she's saying that she's transracial, or people are saying she's transracial because it, diminishes the journey and the hardships of the transgender community, and that's a whole other podcast. Again, I mean, this is a huge conversation. We're not going to have it all in about half an hour, but this whole transracial thing to me, does smack of the hypocrisy of 2 weeks ago, people saying, oh my God, Bruce Jenner becoming Caitlyn Jenner, we should just all accept it, transgenderism is a big thing, blah, 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 right? And applauding her for being so brave and taking this journey. And then this woman, people are saying she's transracial, she's picking a different race because that's the race she identifies with the most, and people are like, oh! And I'm mad. I didn't accept the Bruce Jenner thing, but I'm mad as a black person. But there are plenty of white people out there who are, and I'm not saying white people are the only people who accept transgenderism, but there are a lot of people who do, And it's a lot of those same people who are saying, whoa, 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 what is your problem? Why do you can't be transracial's not real. That's not a thing. You can't change who you are. I'm like, wait, 2 weeks ago you said you could change who you are, and so now it's a problem, and so that's kind of an interesting thing to me. But really, that's not the huge focus I have with it. What I really want to drill down on with this whole transracial thing, which, by the way, if you're listening, not a thing. But it, to me, speaks of white privilege. I can't, as a dark-skinned black person, say, you know what, today I'm going to be white. And I should walk into a bank and say, you know what, I'm white, therefore I want you to look at me, credit-wise, as if I am white. Because there's a difference, there's a disparity. If I get pulled over by the police, I want to be able to say, you know what, right now I am identifying as white, I see myself as white, please don't shoot me. I should be able to say, hey, you know what? I want this particular kind of service when I go into a restaurant. Hey, you know what? When I'm walking through a retail space, I identify as white right now. So no, I don't need 75 people to ask me if I'm okay and follow me around the store.
I want to be able to hail a cab after seeing The Lion King.
I want to be able to hail a cab. And so I identify as white. Right. How come that cab driver doesn't know I identify as white at this moment? I think it is white privilege that allows someone to say, you know what, I identify as black, so I'm going to be black. Black people can't say, you know what, I identify as white, so I'm going to be white.
I think that that's a really good point, because it actually, for whatever culture somebody were to choose, it would only be a white person that could do it. Even if it took major, reconstructive surgery, whatever, it would still only be a white person that could really do it. It goes only one way. And I think that as much as, I could argue for some other things on the transgender thing as far as my thoughts for, against, I'm just going to say, I'm not going to say, but I think it's against. But anyways, it at least, it can go scientifically both ways on that. Whereas on this, I think that that's a great point. It is only and ever will only be one-sided. Because it's true. Because how are you going to go, hey, you know what? I identify as white. How are you going to lighten your skin?
Be like
it's Michael Jackson. Well, maybe if you ask him.
Well, I mean, black women over the years specifically have straightened their hair. They've bleached their skin because white is considered the standard of beauty. There was actually an experiment a few years ago where they asked kids. They put two doll babies, a white. What is that? Was that?
That's a lawnmower.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I looked out the window. Hold on.
Pause.
Okay, I'll pause for a second. We'll pause for a second. Okay. So yeah, that is actually a thing. A few years ago, for years. Black women have bleached their skin to make it lighter. Even if they couldn't pass, they would bleach their skin. They would straighten their hair. There's actually a documentary by Chris Rock, the comedian Chris Rock, called Good Hair, that looks at this phenomena of black women wanting to have, basically white hair. And it's generally Asian hair that they end up getting, but it's straight and beautiful because white has been the standard of beauty. And there was a social experiment that was done, and you can find this on YouTube. It was predominantly, I want to say it was all black kids, and they took a white doll and a black doll, like a baby doll, and they asked the kids to point to the doll that was beautiful, and all of them pointed to the white doll, and they said, now point to the doll that's ugly, and they pointed to the black doll, and obviously
they're all different types of kids,
right? Well, predominantly black kids, and so black kids have this idea associated with them. From childhood, black people have this idea associated from childhood that black is not beautiful, that it is not okay to be black, that white is beautiful, and so you have had the reverse of this.
That
so I'm
breaks
not saying
my
this,
heart.
Yeah, I'm not saying this is a new phenomenon, but. It's really hard. I mean, there's so many issues at play right now. I'm trying to find it's a hard spot for me to come down on this. And I don't want this episode of the podcast to be the Calvin Moore rant, because it's not. It really is not. And there are lots of people who have different ideas on the spectrum of this. But I do want to read real quick a couple of responses that I've gotten on this. Because I posted this article on my Facebook that said, no, you can't be transracial. That's not like a vetted source or anything like that. Like the number one source they quoted in their article was from a Tumblr blog, so it's not like a great a news source or anything. But I thought that what they said was interesting, even if I don't agree with transgenderism, which they were defending in the article. But some people said, asked one guy, Curtis Nguyen, I went to college with this guy, he asked, am I the only one that feels that her feeling that she is black is racist in itself? What does that even mean? To what stereotypical black does she identify herself? Does she believe she is of African descent? It just seems that to say you are of another race and act, dress, and pose as such is racist and offensive. Let's see, who else? We've got... hold on, I've got some other people here. My sister, believe it or not, Camille Dent, she says, black women have dyed and bleached their skin for years. I am not upset with this woman at all. So you've got a different perspective than my own. Let's see who else. Who else has got some stuff? My friend Glenn Harris, he's a Messianic Jewish rabbi. He said he couldn't argue with my logic, referring to my post about the Bruce Jenner thing versus the Rachel. How do we pronounce her name again?
Dolezal.
Dolezal. He says, can't argue with your logic, Calvin, but we live in strange days. Contradictions abound. Another guy says, how many black people, DeMarcus Smith says, how many black people going around saying they got Indian in their family and they don't? It's all stupid to me. When was it cool to want to be black as much stuff we go through? She helped change lives. I don't see the big deal. If you realize only black people are in an uproar about this. Probably because she achieved things we as black people could have, but we chose not to be the difference maker. White people tan every day. Nobody said nothing about Tiger Woods when he didn't want to be black, because if the culture and ignorant, but when somebody passes black and make a difference for the black community, but then they really something other than black, it's a problem and deceitful. This world we live in. And I got a bunch of other comments on this. And so, I mean, the last guy there, he's saying, hey, you know what, black people aren't stepping up, so this white person pretends to be black, does a lot of stuff for the black community, and we can't argue that. She's the president of the Spokane, Washington chapter of the NAACP, and we can joke about there not being any black people up there, so people are pretending to be. But
she's also the treasurer.
She's also the treasurer. She's the vice president. But she's doing good things for the African American community, and so that can't be discounted.
I don't think that I think that misses the point. Can I just say? I think it's, it's because it's not a matter of whether or not she's done good things at her job for the community, for the culture, whatever. It's a matter if she had stepped up to that plate, gotten that job as a white woman who said, I love your culture, and she surrounded herself with that, nobody would be having this argument. The fact of the matter is that she portrayed herself as something other than what she is, and she has spread extensive lies to continue these deceptions as well. So you have somebody, if anything, I would actually draw that into her character as well and question, this has been great what you've done. Maybe we should look, though, at your character. You've gone to such extreme lies and extenses to try to keep up this lie. I would question and whether or not I would even want somebody in that position, because what else have they gone to extreme lies to cover up? I mean, I'm sorry, but that's what I would think. Do you want that person handling your money? Do you want that person representing things? Maybe they have had she done it the other way, as who she was, and said, I love your culture and I'm embracing that and I want to help good things happen, nobody would have a problem with that. But the fact of the matter is, whenever you have somebody who's gone to extensive means to appear as somebody that they are not, that draws a whole other issue into light as well, as far as their character goes. Not just this race issue, but also their character.
Yeah, I think it's just a great misinterpretation of what it means to be an ally to someone. I don't think that, if you're trying to be, an ally to someone who is in a gang, you don't join the gang and go alongside them and be like, oh yeah, this is so terrible being in a gang, isn't it? Like you're gonna. I'm sure that's how they talk to each other.
Wait, did you just refer to black people as a gang?
No.
I'm just messing with you. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. You see what, Calvin? I got real nervous there.
I did that. The funny thing is, I did that to a girl the other day. I had my daughter at American Eagle. I was buying her some clothes, and I just jokingly said to my daughter, I was like, "So how are you going to pay for this?" And then I signed something. Basically, it was I was paying for something with the American Eagle credit card, and there was like all these terms and conditions that came up, and I just pressed OK without reading them. And I looked at her, I said, I didn't read that, but it probably says something like, you now have to, you have to work for this company, and for the rest of your life.
For free.
And this other girl, and the cashier said for free, and I looked at the cashier and I said, no, we're past those days.
Oh.
And she was like, oh my God, no, I was kidding. I was like, I'm sorry, I was just kidding.
And
I was
the
just messing with you.
Her face literally just turned red, and she like swore so bad, and I was like, oh,
you're mean, Calvin.
It was hilarious.
It was
to me.
hilarious.
I don't care who you
though.
are. I don't care who you are.
It
That's
was
funny.
so funny.
That's funny right there.
It was funny.
Yeah.
It was
And
funny.
see, that's me right there. When I say that's funny right there, I'm adopting Larry the Cable Guy. So
Yeah.
Am I being white?
I don't care who you are. Yeah.
Am I being white? Because that's redneck. That's a redneck.
You know who else? You know who else is adopting Larry the Cable Guy? Larry the Cable Guy, who is
I know, right? He's totally
he's from Indiana, doesn't have that accent at all.
But he's honest about that. He says it's an act. He keeps it going, but he tells people very honestly it's an act. So when you look at people who are like, hey, this is an act, or even, here's the thing. I mean, I like the point you just made there. When I'm thinking about people like Eminem, it's not an act that he's from urban culture.
No.
But it would be an act if he said, I'm actually black. And so people like Larry the Cable Guy say, this is an act. This whole Larry the Cable Guy thing, this Southern roots thing, it's an act. Versus like the Jeff Foxworthy, who is actually kind of the redneck guy, versus Ron White, who is actually the redneck guy. Larry the Cable Guy says, this is a thing. I continue within this persona, but please know this isn't actually me. And when he's at home, he turns it off. He says that. When I'm at home, I'm just me. But when I'm out when he's out in public, when he's not even on the stage, he is in the Larry the Cable Guy persona because he's selling that. This woman, again, lied about who she is.
I think it's the deception.
Yeah, I think it really does come down to the deception.
Yeah, that's the only problem with it, honestly. Like, I was reading an article today that was saying some of the original founders of the NAACP were white women. It's not just the fact that she's a white woman, that it's the fact that she told everyone, if she had made everyone believe she was a black woman.
Right. If she had done everything that she's done as a white woman who admired and had a care for the African or black culture, nobody would have an issue.
Right. Well, here's the thing. I do want to
be authentic.
I want to close this podcast down, but I do want to say
but transracial doesn't exist.
No, transracial doesn't exist. But I already stated that. But if we do have any black listeners listening, hopefully we do. I don't know where people are from, but one thing I do want to state, and we don't have any commentary on this because we do need to get to the, we do need to get going on this because it's got a little bit long. But there are plenty of black people who do hold to the view, kind of like the early Malcolm X view of black people for black people. White people can't come alongside us. They cannot be allies with us. And so there has been a lot of people who are saying, you know what, she took this job away from a black person. Just like when black women see me with Jen, who is white, they feel like, oh, a good black man has been taken away from black women.
But that's one-sided too, because they can date a white guy and nobody says anything.
They could, but
that's another
here's the thing.
issue.
I don't belong to black women, and that job doesn't belong to a black person. It belongs to anybody who wants to advance colored people or black people or people of any color. Actually, that's what the NAACP works towards in this nation and in this world. So I want to say very, very quickly that I have no problem with her in the job. I have no problem with her credentials. I have no problem with her writing and her teaching. I have a problem with her deception. I have a problem with her lying about who she is in order to get where she is. So the only credence I will give to people who say, she took this job away from a black person. There might have been a person whose actual story, who might have had all of the same credentials as her, and the actual experience she was saying she actually had but didn't actually have. If it was if it came down to between those two people for the job, yes, she did take a job away from a person of color. But other than that,
but all things would have to align.
Right, all things.
Yeah.
Without the lying, I think she's completely qualified for where she is. But the fact of the matter is she did lie. And so that does say something about, like you said, Jen, her character. Do you want this person in a position of influence if she's willing to lie about her very person, who she is?
Actually, without the deception, this is kind of a cute story where we make fun of Spokane for its whiteness. It's like, Spokane is
totally
white. It's so white. They've got a white lady heading the NAACP.
That's right. Yeah. We do. So, but anyway, so we'll close down there and give us let's do 5 minutes. I know you got to go, Kent, but the next one shouldn't be too long.
Okay.
So, 5 minutes and then we'll come back.
Yep.
All right. Cool.
All right.